Good morning and welcome to Gentex Multimedia Livecast for Friday, October the 16th, streaming live to your device from beautiful Brisbane in Australia. News: US President Donald Trump and Democratic rival Joe Biden are holding separate TV events rather than a shared debate this morning, and we will see if we can bring to you that report. The first visitors as part of New Zealand's travel bubble with New South Wales and the Northern Territory will arrive today. The coronavirus crisis is worsening across Europe, with new rules imposed in London and other parts of UK. Meanwhile, a testing blitz continues in regional Victoria and updates are due on Melbourne's lockdown. We will bring to you all those news. A technical issue with his plane meant that Prime Minister Scott Morrison is stuck in Queensland. Well, stuck in Queensland is the best place to be. And he had to postpone today's National Cabinet. Follow Gentex Multimedia throughout the day for breaking news, developments, coronavirus updates and live streams from Australia and around the world. Well, making news today, Victoria records just 2 new cases of COVID-19. Australia travel bubble begins, but not for Aussies. New lockdown rules in London. Trump and Biden to compete in their TV event. That will be quite interesting to see. And as restrictions ease, let's see what we have in store for the weekend weather-wise. Let's welcome Dilraj with the weekend weather. So welcome, Dilraj.
Good morning everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is maximum 29 degree. Brisbane area will be mostly sunny with 0% chances of rain. Light winds becoming northeasterly 15 to 20 km per hour in the morning and then becoming light in the evening. Fire danger is high and sun protection is recommended till 3 p.m. UV index is predicted to reach 9, that is very high. So tomorrow, that is Saturday, minimum will be 16 and maximum will be 29. Brisbane area will be partly cloudy with no chances of rain. Light winds becoming northeasterly 15 to 20 km per hour in the middle of the day, then becoming light in the evening. On Sunday, minimum will be 17 and maximum will be 30. Brisbane area will be mostly sunny with 20% chances of rain. Light winds becoming north to northwesterly 15 to 25 km per hour during the morning, then tending north to northeasterly 25 to 35 km per hour during the day. Over the weekend, sun protection is recommended from 8 a.m. till 3 p.m. and UV index is predicted to reach 9, that is very high. So enjoy a lovely weekend and have a good day.
And thank you very much, Dilraj. Wonderful. So looking forward to the weekend. Hey, it's Friday. Well, right now, let's take a look at the breaking news or the headlines first before we go into the news proper.
Australians stranded overseas will be able to come home sooner under an expansion of quarantine processing in Darwin. The ABC understands that people in London and India will be among the first to be offered repatriation flights. Under the scheme, a total of 1,000 international returnees will fly to Darwin's Air Force Base every month before being taken to the Howard Springs facility for 14 days of mandatory quarantine. Australians overseas aren't the only ones stranded. The Prime Minister has been held up in Queensland because of technical issues with his plane. The delay means today's National Cabinet has been rescheduled to next week. The meeting was due to discuss those plans to bring home stranded Australians. A COVID testing blitz will continue today at Shepparton in Victoria's north. It follows confirmation of 3 active coronavirus cases in the town. Hundreds of close contacts are now in home isolation, but the state government says the outbreak is unlikely to delay the easing of some coronavirus rules from next week. The former New South Wales MP Daryl Maguire will return to a corruption inquiry in Sydney today. It will be his 3rd day in the witness stand answering questions about his business deals while he was a Member of Parliament. Mr Maguire has admitted he was actively trying to boost his finances ahead of retirement and acted as a door opener for property developers to access government officials.
That's the breaking news for today or the headlines for today. And in the other news is, of course, Queensland on the campaign trail. Let's take a look at that report.
head out on the election campaign trail now, and with Queensland's unemployment rate sitting at 7.7%, both leaders are talking jobs. Rob Morrison is in central Queensland with the Premier.
Well, as new ABS data shows that the unemployment rate in Queensland has risen to 7.7%, the highest in the country. It was no surprise to see the Premier again donning the high vis, this time coming to a disused train workshop in Rockhampton, where she announced that the Labor government is currently negotiating with Aurizon to buy this site to turn it into a train maintenance facility, something that would create 550 local jobs.
We are once again talking about manufacturing trains in Queensland, jobs, jobs and more jobs.
Treasurer Cameron Dick has also defended that high unemployment rate, saying that Queensland actually created 32,000 jobs in the past month. That's significantly more than any other state. He also says that the latest jobless figures are skewed by the number of people on JobKeeper. For example, there's only around 30,000 Queenslanders on JobKeeper compared to the more than 100,000 people in Victoria. He's also called the target of the LNP to reduce the jobless rate to 5% reckless, saying Labor will not be setting an unemployment target.
Because we are in the worst pandemic in a century. The LNP's unemployment target is not worth the paper it's written on. It is a sham.
A big distraction for the Labor campaign today is the issue of cash for access. Recently, a Labor government passed laws that made cash for access illegal. Well, it's now been revealed that a number of frontbench ministers recently attended a function where the party took money so that private enterprises like gambling companies and consultancy firms like KPMG could sit down with ministers, including the Attorney-General, Yvette D'Arth.
The donation caps will apply to the next state election, so they will come in 2022. I have fully disclosed I've not breached any laws.
For the past couple of days, the Premier has had a big emphasis on the regions and her job creation plan, but this afternoon she will return to South East Queensland.
The campaign's starting to get a little nasty, with Labor digging up an embarrassing social media post by the LNP's candidate for Munding Borough, overshadowing Deb Frecklington's pledge to bring down the unemployment rate. Ebony Cavallaro has the story.
Well, it's all about jobs for Deb Freckling today, starting her morning in Townsville at an aquaculture facility. Ms Frecklington promising $67 million, an immediate funding boost to build an aquaculture building with state-of-the-art labs, the idea to turbocharge the aquaculture industry. The LNP promising the cash injection will help deliver 11,200 jobs over the next 11 years. The LNP has today set an ambitious target of getting unemployment down to 5% during the next term if elected.
Getting 65,000 people into work. If you do not have a target, you're not trying hard enough.
But the campaign has turned dirty, with Labor's Stephen Miles distributing a Facebook post made by candidate for the marginal seat of Munding Borough, Glenn Doyle. In it, he suggests more research is needed on whether women should be educated.
That's not true at all. I've got a wife who's got degrees. I've supported her since we've been married. You would not find somebody who's more supportive of women than me.
The LNP campaign returns to South East Queensland this afternoon.
And on that campaign trail, of course, we know that on the campaign trail there are certain things that people always dig for. I'll try and see from next week that we'll give you a weekly update on the trail and see how things are progressing and do some of our own analysis of the situation moving forward. So right now, breaking news is Daryl Maguire has just arrived at the court.
What is Marty Berejiklian know? Absolutely incredible revelations. What was the nature of your relationship with Miss Berejiklian? How are you feeling this morning, Mr. Maguire?
Were you in love with her, or were you just with her for the power?
Will you apologise to the public? Mr. Maguire, will you apologise to taxpayers?
What did Gladys Berejiklian know about your business dealings? Does the Premier deserve to lose her job because of her relationship with you?
Will you defend Miss Berejiklian?
So there you are, and we will bring to you what's actually happening in the court later in the news. But right now, let's go to Victoria, where Premier Daniel Andrews said 400 people were isolating in homes in Shepparton.
The great complexity with this particular case is it's not like the bloke wasn't forthcoming. He freely gave us information that he'd done the wrong thing in a number of different settings. He'd been to a cafe when he's not allowed to be at a cafe. He had been pretty forthcoming in terms of the information. It wasn't like he said he wouldn't tell us anything and was in fact, telling us things that we knew to be obviously untrue. That's the great complexity here, and I'm not sure what level of detail he provided yesterday, but we've certainly been able to confirm that he was in Shepparton. We knew that anyway, but he has confirmed that for us, and he's also confirmed the number of sites. So we don't believe he was at any other sites that he hadn't told us about. So that's the great mystery of this in some respects. I haven't had advice on what the content of that interview was, other than the points I've just made. But it's quite odd in that he was forthcoming with some information and not other, and therefore I don't think there was any reason to, if you like, doubt the story that he was telling. It was a relatively complete story. In fact, we believed it to be a complete story. Turns out it's not, and that's why there's 400 people in their homes in Shepparton. That's why there's many hundreds of people waiting in long queues to get tested, because that's the only safe way to test people. There's a lot of inconvenience out of this, but let's deal with the things we can change. And the things that we can change is, of course, wrapping around anybody who's tested positive or anyone who has to isolate in the Shepparton community, a public health response, the most compassionate, the most supportive set of arrangements. At very short notice, a very large number of people have had to be confined to their home, and there will be all manner of care packages and other things that we need to do, filling scripts, doing all those sorts of things, and we'll make sure that we do that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the next news, let's go to our Queensland Parliament with a live crossover.
Yes, yes, very good.
Yes, ready to go.
Is everyone's cameras ready? Yes?
Yeah,
all
we
happy?
are ready.
Excellent. We'll get underway. You're right. What great weather. Yeah? Very, very good. Well, as is my practice during this caretaker period, we have a COVID update for this morning. Jeanette and I will give that. We're happy to take questions related to COVID and Queensland's response to COVID. Then Jeanette will get back to her important work, and I'm happy to address any political or election-related issues. We have 2 new cases of COVID-19 in Queensland overnight. Both are returned travellers in hotel quarantine, and so not of particular concern. They tested positive in hotel quarantine, and the Chief Health Officer has further details about them. That leaves us at 4 active cases. We tested 4,738 samples overnight, including 204 in Townsville and 130 in Queensland, and we continue to thank every Queenslander who went and got tested. It is very much appreciated. That means we've now gone 36 days since our last case of community transmission. And it's more than 14 days since we released that roadmap and further eased restrictions here in Queensland. We continue to monitor the situation in New South Wales and Victoria very carefully before any decisions will be made about our borders. However, given that 16 days of progress, we can bring forward the next stage of easing of restrictions, which was described as stage 5, other than the border element. And so effective from this afternoon, as a reward for Queenslanders, we will be able to, young people at formals will be able to dance again. Up to 40 people at a time will be able to dance at weddings. And residents of aged care facilities of nursing homes will again be able to go on excursions to the beach, to play bingo, that sort of thing. So this is a great outcome. It allows us to further ease restrictions. We're doing this in that graduated way, testing throughout the incubation period, throughout at least 14 days each time, so that we can see that each easing hasn't had an impact on our ability to control the virus. At the same same time as we continue to ease restrictions here in Queensland, other parts of the world that opened up too soon, that were not cautious enough, are having to reapply restrictions. So Paris and London have reimposed restrictions, restricting the number of people who can be gathered to 6, restricting households from gathering together. In some parts of the UK, bars, gyms and other businesses have been closed down. Germany's introduced new rules to restrict the virus. In Northern Ireland, the schools, pubs and restaurants are all closed. And so because of our response and because Queenslanders have done so well, we can continue to ease restrictions, continue to get people back to work, whereas in those places that rushed to lift their restrictions, they are having to reapply them during second and third waves.
So we have 2 new cases in Queensland
Dr. Janet
overnight,
Young,
both of them
Chief
in hotel quarantine,
Health Officer,
so not a
Queensland.
risk to the community. I expect we are going to see more cases in hotel quarantine because the world now has over 38 million confirmed cases of COVID-19, and unfortunately across the world more than 1 million people have died. Now, as more Australians come home, which is everyone's aim of course, we will see more Australians in hotel quarantine with the virus, but we can treat them here in Queensland. We have really good hospitals, we know how to treat COVID-19 effectively, and of course we'll be doing that going forward. So those 2 new cases today, one was another miner who was in Cairns in the hotel up there. He was a colleague of the case from the other day. There are 17 miners who've returned from Africa in that cohort, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see more, but they're in a very safe place and we'll be able to manage each of them if they develop COVID. The second case was someone who had returned from the United States and was in hotel quarantine down in the Gold Coast. So again, we will manage that case as we will any Queenslander or anyone in Queensland who develops COVID-19. Then some excellent news this afternoon, because we have now gone more than 2 weeks since we last removed some of those restrictions, and we have not seen any transmission of COVID in Queensland during that time. Indeed, it's 36 days since we last had an infectious case who was infectious in the community. So we can this afternoon from 4 o'clock do 4 more things. The first one is we can gather in groups of 40 in our own homes or out in the community. So in places where we don't have those COVID safe plans, where we just get together in households with friends, with family. So 40 people can do that now. Then also our Year 12 can celebrate with dancing at their end of year formals, at their end of year graduation ceremonies. So they can, anyone who attends can dance, and that's a great thing to happen. Then at weddings, 40 people can dance, any 40 people, but a maximum of 40 people at one point in time at the wedding. And we'll just see how that works. And that's on our roadmap. We'll review that and see what happens then with the next stage in the roadmap. And then the last one is that residents of our aged care facilities can return to going out on excursions. So we all know that residents in aged care facilities, if they're able to and well enough, they can go out to the local RSL, to the shops, to, maybe out to a hairdresser. So they can they can go out on those excursions together. So that is a good thing to happen there. So
it definitely is a good thing. So Queensland, put on your dancing shoes as dancing is back on the floor. Well, what is the 4 main things there? The groups of 40 now. And number 2, Year 12 can have that formal. I mean, that is a very important part, missing the Year 12 formal. You've gone through all those years. That's a remarkable achievement, and that's a time frame that people always like to remember. So Year 12 formals have got the go-ahead, and weddings, 40 people. So and they can also dance. And the last one is the aged care are now allowed to have their excursion. So wonderful. Well done, Queensland, in moving forward. But we will look at, that people will take all kinds of measures to get to Queensland, and we will look at how and what. Well, might as well. We'll take a very quick look at that right now as I speak. So there's a lady who tried to sneak into Queensland by hiding behind the driver's seat in a big truck.
G'day mate, how are you? With the Gundawini Police. I'm intercepting you for a licence check as well as checking your border pass. Thanks mate, good on you, and just your licence if you get a chance. Is there anybody else in the truck with you? Yeah, right, mate, I'm going to have a quick check, but I'm going to look and see if there's another person in there. G'day. How are you, mate? You like to pop out for me, please?
There she is.
Didn't think anyone could fit in there. Do you want to just pop down that passenger side for me? And I'll have a quick chat to the both of you. As a result of my checks on the device, I've identified that there may be another person inside the truck, so that's why I've had a look and I've located you and they're hiding behind the. Well, at the end of the day, I'm going to refuse you entry to Queensland based on the information that I have provided, okay? But what's...
So as I mentioned that, people will take all kinds of measures. That's not the first case that we have seen of someone trying to hide and, smuggle into Queensland, crossing that border. There you are, caught in the action, and I think that inspector there had a pretty good intuition by going in and saying, checking it out. Well, right now, continuing with the news where we left before we crossed over to the Parliament House, we looked at Premier Daniel Andrew, as he said that 400 people were isolating in their homes in Shepparton and staying in Victoria. The Deputy Chief Health Officer, Alan Cheng, says he's started modelling of some of the restrictions that will be eased from this Sunday. Let's see what kind of modelling they have and what plans do they have for Sunday.
Look, we're looking at everything at the moment. There's models being run as we speak, and they should be off the computer in the next day or so. It does take a little bit of time to do that. We're considering all sorts of things in sort of making that determination, and I think there'll be more announcements on Sunday.
Is it considered with the numbers that we have that moving to a 20-kilometre zone would be a strong possibility?
We're looking at it, yeah, and the announcements will be on Sunday.
On our greater strategy, Alan, has that changed at all in the last week? Are we no longer kind of aggressively going for that zero community transmission if we accepted that we're not going to get there?
Look, I think the tail has proved a bit more difficult than we might have thought. Although remembering that the original timeline was for the 26th of October. I think we're always looking at the numbers and reassessing things, and there'll be announcements on Sunday, and there will be further consideration of what to do after that, depending on the numbers.
Do you think that trigger of getting 14 days of zero cases to open up more, is that going to be removed, do you think?
Look, I think we're looking at it all the time. I think it's certainly something, when we made this roadmap, it was, quite a number of weeks ago now, and we just need to reassess all our plans each time. That it's hard to look.
And on to New South Wales now, where the police say that the officers acted very courageously after shooting an armed man in the Central Coast. So let's go to that story.
Ladies and gentlemen, shortly before 10 o'clock today, a member of the community was following a stolen motor vehicle. As a result, that person contacted local police, and upon police sighting the stolen motor vehicle, they took up pursuit. Roughly around 10 a.m, after pursuing the vehicle, police entered a premises on Mimosa Road at Wyong, where they identified the stolen motor vehicle had been parked. They identified a male person. They called upon that male person who was armed with a long arm, and subsequently pointed that long arm at police. As a result, a number of police have discharged their firearms at that offender. That person is now deceased. Overall, from this incident. A critical incident has been declared. The homicide squad is currently now in Tuggerah Lakes Police District for the purpose of investigating the death of the offender and also the actions of police. I have met with all police involved. I also have been briefed by the forward commander because right at this stage we still have tactical operations underway searching for potentially a second offender in the Wyong area.
So there you go. The police every day in their line of duty, always, you never know what comes up. And of course with the armed people out there as well, and the actions that they take, the split-second decision that they have to make, also considering that their lives are at stake there as well. Well, right now, let's go straight to the Parliament House, the investigation where Daryl Maguire says that, yes, he had discussed his debts with the Premier. So, there's some interesting things that he has just revealed. So let's take a look at that.
Approximately when, from your perspective, did your close personal relationship with Ms. Berejiklian come to an end?
Oh, August, September sometime. I can't be clear.
You're referring to this year, is that right?
This year, yes.
Approximately when did you start being in a close personal relationship with Ms. Berejiklian?
Oh, sometime in perhaps 15 or 16, somewhere there.
Was it around that period, or is it possible that it was a little bit earlier?
Around then, I think. We're always good friends, but it was on again, off again about then.
So when you say on again, off again, do you mean that there was a period of time before 2015, 2016 when it was on again in the sense of a close personal relationship?
Between 15 and the date now, it was a bit on again, off again.
Doing the best you can, what did you tell her about the Badgerys Creek stuff?
I don't recall. I just don't recall what I would have said.
Well, do the best you can. Was it you at least kept her informed from time to time about the kinds of things that you were involved in the, what I might call the business area? Is that right?
Yeah, in general conversation, yes.
So at least in general terms, is that right?
Yes.
So as he mentioned that he had discussed his debts at the time, mainly to seek reassurance about what he was doing.
Or you at least referred, didn't you, to a number of people that you were engaged with in relation to business deals or including property development?
I may have from time to time, but I can't recall.
In advance of the call on the 5th of September 2017, did you tell Ms. Berejiklian?
And then he further went on to say that during the second day of questioning, he admitted setting up a meeting with the Premier at the request of a Sydney property developer.
That place being chosen is the possibility that you would be able to comply with Mr. Alhar's request to be able to meet the Premier. Do you agree?
Silence.
I can't say that was the driving purpose, but yes,
Whether or
I
not
agree.
it was a driving
I agree.
purpose, it was at least a factor that was taken into account.
I agree.
Does the Premier give you admission to her office herself, or is there some call taken between a receptionist or a personal assistant to her to say, have you got a couple of minutes for Mr. Maguire?
It depends. It depends whether a receptionist is there. Sometimes there's no one there. Knock on the door. Hello, can I come in? I've got so and so with me. It just every circumstance is different. Sometimes there are no receptionists. I shouldn't say this out loud, but sometimes there aren't.
So this is something you've done from time to time and a drop into the
So as the inquiry continues today, Jackie Marley discusses the latest from that inquiry and looking at an insight on how the proceedings have come forward so far.
Mr. Maguire, you continue to be bound by the affirmation you made yesterday?
Yes, Commissioner.
You deliberately set up the meeting with Mr. Alhar during a parliamentary sitting week, correct?
It was convenient.
One of the reasons you arranged the meeting with Mr. Alhar on the particular day and at the particular time and the particular place was the possibility that you would be able to introduce him or allow him to see the Premier by way of a drop-in, is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
Approximately when, from your perspective, did your close personal relationship with Ms. Berejiklian come to an end?
Oh, August, September sometime. I can't be clear.
You're referring to this year, is that right?
This year, yes.
Approximately when did you start being in a close personal relationship with Ms. Berejiklian?
So we will keep an eye on the proceedings as we know it's still happening, and we'll see how it all progresses along. But now, moving on to the COVID cases. So, it appears that women have been hit the hardest during this shutdown. Let's take a look at that report.
2020 has been catastrophic for women.
I feel really angry because it's like we just don't exist at all.
It's that rise in the unpaid load in terms of caring responsibilities, coupled with that huge economic fallout.
2020 hasn't been a great year for most Australians, but fresh data reveals women are bearing the brunt, financially and emotionally.
I've studied gender inequality for 15 years, and I've never actually been more worried than I am now.
I'm a part of the Older Women's Network Theatre Group, and we meet here weekly. This is our first meeting back since March. And I have absolutely maintained my mental health due to this group.
At 61, English teacher Fiona Ninnis is the youngest member of the group. She has a bachelor's degree, a graduate certificate and a PhD. But after losing her university job last year, she's worried about finding full-time work.
I just feel that there's this ageism is alive and well in society.
So women taking the brunt, in these times, and of course always take my hats off, ladies, women, mothers, sisters, always doing so much more out in the community. And this is the Mental Awareness Month, and of course on next Saturday is the state conference for White Ribbon, where lots of these topics will be discussed there as well. So yes, our tribute and salutation to the ladies there. Well, right now let's take a very quick commercial break, and don't you go anywhere, because we got a special treat for you today, all the way from Guyana.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And it's Super Ace, and now, as I had promised before, that there's a treat for you for today. As we know, people of Indian origin, they have settled in countries far and near, everywhere, in every corner of the globe. Right now, today, we will go to Guyana, where in Fiji they have what they call the Sanatan Dharma. In Guyana they have the Hindu Dharmic Sanstha, and they always put out some beautiful, beautiful events and functions that they do, and especially teaching the culture and language and dance forms to the youngsters. Let's take a quick look at this, which is being sent by the courtesy of Guyana Dharmic Sanstha. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. And those two girls in white reminded me of the supplementary dances from the dancing scene from Pakiza, where the two supplementary dances accompanied Meena Kumari. Well, right now, let's go to our events. Let's see what's happening right here in Queensland. There are, ladies and gentlemen, all the functions and events taking place here in Queensland. And don't forget that a lot of those, or some of them are not even Queensland, they're taking place everywhere because they are now virtual events where you can log in, you can register to onto those webinars and attend those functions that are in there. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful having your company on this Friday. Looking forward to the weekend, but don't forget that tomorrow is the weekend edition when we do a roundup. We'll try and do a roundup of the campaign trail so far, and don't forget that at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, the first show of Fusion Dreams, a local brand new imaging band of Bollywood numbers, and we did some test streams last weekend, but this week, this Saturday, tomorrow, from 7 p.m. it will go live on our channel on YouTube and also on the Facebook page of Fusion Dreams as well. So it's all happening out there, and it will be a wonderful show. Make sure that you do join in and log in. And ladies and gentlemen, just a quick request, if you can share on to your friends and families and your contacts, our feed, that would be wonderful. That would be really appreciated, as we're having a little bit of an issue with Facebook. As we know, there are many kinds of people out there, and some people make some kinds of reports, but anyway, that's what you have to deal with, and that's not a problem. We will get through all this, but right now it's time to say goodbye. So until tomorrow, be good, but most importantly, stay safe.